Viewers, joining me now is a very special guest. He is his name is David Mencer, and he's the spokesperson at Prime Minister Netanyahu's office. Israel and Hamas has agreed for a deal, for a ceasefire deal, and perhaps we have this spokesperson from Prime Minister Netanyahu's office to speak on that. Thank you so much, David, for finding out time to do this interview.
You're welcome, Sid. Good to be with you.
Yeah. David, my first question to you is, and in fact, everybody wants to know this, that how much was Trump administration involved in getting this deal done? Because yesterday when the deal was announced, he was the first US leader to perhaps confirm it and also to express his thoughts on the deal. What was the level of his administration's involvement, and had it not been possible without his administration's involvement?
So let me be clear with you. If this agreement is actually finalized, and that is by no means clear as we speak today, because our Prime Minister has made clear that there have been some changes by Hamas. They are changing aspects of the deal which were already agreed, and that that agreement cannot be brought before Israel's cabinet until everything is buttoned down. So they are making some changes, but we do want this agreement to continue. But I'll be straight with you. The reason why now, this moment was chosen because of our military and diplomatic strength. Hamas is on the ropes. International pressure, including that of President Trump's decisive stance. It has been very important, but so has President Biden's stance as well. They've created the conditions for this agreement if it is finally agreed. Now, this is Israel acting from a position of power. We do this because every Israeli life matters. We've got 98 of our people in Hamas captivity. Many of them have been killed, but many are still alive as well. So while Hamas dehumanizes and exploits their own people as well as our people, Israel is trying to save lives, both Israeli and Gazan. And we're trying to show the world, actually, the stark difference between good and evil. This agreement, it's not a concession, it's a demonstration of Israel's strength, our moral clarity. Hamas's days are numbered, and Gaza will be free of their terror, and Israel will always protect its own citizens together with its values.
David, if I recall our last conversation, perhaps you told me, or some of your other colleagues also told me, that Israel wanted the release of the hostage unconditional release of the hostage. But now, going by what the media reports are telling me, that there is going to be the prisoner swap between the two sides. So has this deal been possible only because Israel has changed its position from unconditional release of hostages to the prisoner swap? Because I'm reading somewhere that on every one female Israeli hostage released, there's going to be the 50 Palestinian terrorists will be released. How would you like to comment on that?
So this is an agreement to release our hostages, and it demonstrates Israel's strength, our humanity, our unwavering commitment to our own citizens. And it comes at a time when Hamas is at its weakest, and Israel has achieved a significant strategic victory against the Hamas and the Iranian regime that try to destroy our nation within this region. Now, look, it's important to understand that Hamas has been greatly decimated. Their leadership has been eliminated. Their rocket arsenal has been destroyed. Their tunnel network has been compromised. Their operational capabilities have been completely shattered. They're no longer the force they once were. And also Iran, the driving force behind Hamas, have been dealt severe blows. We made clear that we wanted to bring all of our hostages home. It was the most important war objective, and this is a way of bringing our people home. Yes, we are paying a heavy price in the release of Palestinian convicted terrorists, but we want to bring our people home. The sanctity of life.
But David, similar mistake was committed by Israel in 2011, if you remember. The dreaded terrorists were released, and perhaps they later became the senior commanders of Hamas. This time around, do you have any assurance in the deal that Hamas will never, or perhaps the Gaza as a territory will never be used against Israel in future for any kind of terror activities?
Look, Hamas is not just Israel's enemy. They're the enemy of the Gazan people. They've used ordinary Gazans as human shields. They deliberately maximize civilian casualties to fuel their own propaganda. They steal humanitarian aid, selling it back to hungry Gazans at extortionate prices, and they starve and exploit their own people. Their evil knows no bounds. So for Israel, we're not just fighting Hamas, we're liberating Gaza from Hamas's tyranny. We will always reserve the right to defend ourselves. Just as in the north, we've had agreements in the north in the past. The difference now is enforcement. We will enforce this agreement. Every strike against Hamas is a strike towards freedom for Gazans from this brutal regime.
Phase 3 of this agreement talks about the reconstruction of in Gaza, rebuilding Gaza. Is Israel going to contribute to rebuild Gaza?
Look, when it comes to the day after this war, I'll be straight with you. Israel, the transition will be from a military strategy to a political strategy. There's a limited amount I can share with you right now on the air, otherwise it's dead on arrival. But we've got 3 principles. The first one is the complete removal of Hamas. The second one is the demilitarization of Gaza. Nothing can happen until all those arms are taken out of circulation. And thirdly, and most importantly, it's the de-radicalization of Gaza. Hamas is not going to rule Gaza. It's not going to happen. In the immediate future, Israel will maintain security control, and Gazans interested in a better Gaza and not just about killing Israelis will be invited to come forward together with other moderate Arab nations to make it happen. The Palestinian Authority, whose job this should be, they are very problematic, but Palestinian society needs to be de-radicalized. Just ask yourself this simple question, Sid. Who are the heroes for a 15-year-old Palestinian boy? Right now, they're the murderers of Jews. We will link reconstruction to de-radicalization, and there are excellent examples of de-radicalization both in Saudi and in the UAE. Those should be a good place to look to for good examples of how this can be done.
Okay, one thing I would again want to understand from you, you said that the principal position is the eradication of Hamas, complete eradication of Hamas from Gaza. Now, on one end, where you're saying the principal position of Israel is eradication of Hamas, on the other end, Israel will release the convicted terrorists, those who are affiliated with Hamas, have been affiliated with Hamas. Then I don't really understand that what perhaps exactly Israel is looking for. Because on one end, you are eradicating, you have killed their top leadership. There has been a military operation in whole of Gaza. And on the other end, Israel has agreed to release the Hamas terrorists. They could go back and again form a terror group or perhaps plan similar strike against Israel.
Look, for 468 days now, 98 of our people have been cruelly held in Hamas captivity. Our Prime Minister gave our negotiating team a broad remit for these negotiations. From Israel's perspective, we're doing everything in our power to bring home all 98 hostages, the living, so they can recover, and also the deceased, so they can get a decent burial and be reunited with their families, and their families can get some sort of closure. Now, don't forget, these are women, these are children, these are the elderly, and certainly in stage 1 of this agreement, it will be the humanitarian stage where women and children and those suffering illness amongst the hostages will be freed. But make no mistake, Israel understands that Hamas has been decimated. They are no longer the same organization they were in October 2023. They have their rocket arsenal has been decimated. They were firing hundreds upon hundreds of rockets at us every single day. We've shut off the supply on the Philadelphia corridor, which has been absolutely key. Israeli troops will maintain their presence there, but also they're simply not the same organization they were. Now, at the end of the Second World War, there were still Nazis in Germany. Now, but the Nazis, they surrendered. Hamas are jihadis. They haven't surrendered. We wish they would, but in the absence of that, we're desperate to get our people home right now. And that's precisely what we're trying to do.
Okay. Bringing back to your previous answer, you said that there is going to be the security control of Israel over Gaza. Would like you to elaborate a little bit what kind of control Israel would command in Gaza, and by when we could see the removal of the troops from Gaza, and perhaps what is going to be the political solution within that territory? Because till now, the last elections took place in 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, there has not been any election in Gaza. Hamas has been ruling Gaza and has been using that territory for the terror activities against Israel since last 15 years or even more. So, what political solution is in the mind right now for the people in Gaza?
I'll share with you some of the details, but there's a limited amount I can share with you until the agreement is finally finalized and that we can share it with you. Look, there are many factors which have created these new conditions, which have allowed this agreement to begin to be discussed. I've spoken to you about stage one. In stage two, our young soldiers will be released. But in terms of the practicalities, a buffer zone is being created to protect the Western Negev part of Israel from Gaza terrorism. We are going to maintain presence on the Philadelphia corridor to stop Hamas smuggling in weapons, their deadly armaments. There will remain Israelis on security on all the crossings in Gaza, together with security checks for population movements inside Gaza. But these are all detailed inside the negotiations. There are thousands of details, and this is just phase one. So if you'll allow me, we want this agreement to be finally agreed by all sides. Hamas this morning are playing games, to be frank, and changing some parts of they are playing games with aspects that which were already agreed. I won't negotiate on air, but I'll tell you they are playing games. The government wants this agreement to be finalized primarily because we can then bring it to the Israeli cabinet and the government to be voted on. We cannot bring it to the Israeli cabinet and the government to be voted on while details are being changed even after there's been agreement.
David, I'll again ask you this question. Who is going to run the administration of Gaza in Gaza? I want to know that from you. Is there anything decided in the agreement, or is Israel going to run the show in Gaza?
Look, in the short term, it'll be Israel who will be providing security for that part of the world. Because Hamas, even today, their current leader, the ones we haven't killed, eliminated, they have said they wish to carry out October the 7th again. So there will be a transition gradually from a military strategy to a political strategy. Again, there's a limited amount I can share with you right now on air. Otherwise, it won't happen. But our three principles are clear. We want the complete removal of Hamas, the demilitarization of Gaza, and then de-radicalization. Israel does not want to be in Gaza for one moment that it has to be, but we are there to prevent October 7th happening again. Ultimately, we're looking for Gazans to come forward to be able to run their own lives, Gazans who are interested in a better future for Gaza, and not just, as Hamas were, interested in destroying Israel.
David, a very last question before I let you go. I would like to know from you, this particular proposal was introduced by the Biden administration almost 8 months back. But in the last 8 months, Israel this is my personal analysis of how things have unfolded in Middle East. So in last 8 months, Israel has successfully eliminated its enemies from Hezbollah top commanders to Hamas senior leadership, and has broken the backbone of Iranian proxy network in the region. And since last 8 months, the Biden administration have been pushing really hard for Israel to come to the table for the ceasefire. But it has taken almost 8 months' time for Israel to come to the table to talk ceasefire with Hamas. And now finally, a deal has been brokered. Trump administration has played a crucial role. Perhaps they are also taking credit. Also would like to know that there was immense pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as far as his own domestic politics is concerned, because it's been more than 15 months. There has been a constant demand for the hostage release, and the pressure was mounting on the prime minister. Do you think that the same plan has been agreed now in January, which was introduced 8 months back, because Israel has very strategically eliminated all its enemies? Israel is now confident of doing the deal because they have pushed back these terror groups for almost 25 to 30 years. For next 25, 30 years, they cannot reunite and plan such activity. And the third, the Trump is a factor. To what extent my analysis is correct, or perhaps anything you would like to add to it?
I can share with you why this moment has been chosen. And I will say, partly as you say, it is because of the military and diplomatic strength that Israel has possessed and has taken forward. I've told you that Hamas is on the ropes, and international pressure, including President Trump's decisive stance. Yes, it was decisive, but let's not forget President Biden has also been pushing this as well. All of these things have come together to create the conditions for an agreement. This is Israel acting from a position of strength, and also because every life, every Israeli life matters to us. Of course, every life matters. So I can tell you that our negotiators briefed me, and they said this thing, which was quite simple. Until this moment, Hamas have been dragging their feet in these negotiations. Now, this has been said very openly in the American media by Secretary Blinken. He said that every single time it has been Hamas that has been unwilling to cross the line. So Hamas now have been willing, but even today, Sid, as we speak, we do not have a final agreement because Hamas are changing aspects of the agreement. And this agreement cannot be brought in front of the Israeli cabinet until it is finalized. And as we speak right now, it is still not finalized.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you so much.
Good to be with you, Sid. Thank you very much.